All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Empty Gym podcast. A little bit later on this one than we wanted to be. Had some scheduling conflicts as I was up in East Lansing for the Butler Michigan State game, which we'll get to in a little bit because we have to, I guess. But yeah, back with another episode. Going to talk a little Champions Classic, some other games that have been going on as well. Gavitt games also just wrapped up on Friday night. And then give some previews of all the Feast Week tournaments coming up this week. So let's get started. We haven't done an episode since the Duke Arizona game, and I know you have some thoughts on that, Adam. So I'll let you have the floor here, and we can go back in time a little bit to Duke's tough loss at home against Arizona.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I do have plenty of notes on this game.
Probably didn't even need to write them down.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of all in the head. But when we originally previewed this game, I don't know, a couple weeks back, I think the two things that I said were we have to out rebound them or minimize that gap and then keep them off the 3-point line. We did a decent job keeping them off the 3-point line, but we got out rebounded 45-33 and 15-8 on offensive rebounds. Really tough to win a game like that. The first half offense was atrocious. It was just dribble, 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 pass, dribble, 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 pass. There was no movement, nothing. It felt very stagnant. Picked up in the second half though, which was good to see. Filipowski had 25 and 8. For Arizona, though, all five of their starters, were in double figures. I forgot that there was 5 starters in basketball, not 4. For some reason, I have 4 starters written down on my notes. It was a tough night. Okay, cut me some slack.
Yeah.
This wasn't really a bad loss, though. I'm not too upset about it. Now, I would definitely say we should have won that game. We had the home court advantage. I do think we're still the better team. We're off night, didn't play too well. Happens. I was very glad to see that Caleb Bluff had 6 turnovers, though. That made me a little bit more happier. But it was tough to see him hit that buzzer beater right before half. I think they were up like 8 at half from that. But like I said, not really a terrible loss. I'm not going to overact on it. There was some stuff that we saw in the Duke Arizona game that were fixed in the Duke Michigan State game, which we will get to. But for Shire, I thought he kind of did a good job rolling with the punches because that game could have got really ugly real quick, just of how lackluster Duke was playing. So, like I said, not really going to overact too much, but tough loss.
Yeah, definitely. Probably would have liked to see a little bit more from the freshmen. I mean, McCain only had 9. Caleb Foster, who ended up having a great game against Michigan State, almost ended up with the 13 trillion. The one foul is the only number in the box score, really.
I don't think it took a shot in that game.
Yeah, no shots, no rebounds, no assists, no turnovers, no blocks, no steals.
Tony Snell game. He's just running around on the court.
But one foul that keeps him away from what could have been a remarkable 13 trillion performance in the box score. But yeah, like you said, Filipowski played great, had that 25 and 8 game. Jeremy Roach, I thought, looked really good. Like kind of like what I've been saying at the top. When you got such good freshmen, especially with McCain and Foster, who you're really excited about, would have liked to see a little bit more out of them. But at the same time, it's their first game. Not their first game, but their first game against an opponent at this level.
Their first big game, yeah.
Yeah, and for it to come this early in the year against a team as good as Arizona, who's also like very old, 4 of their 5 starters are seniors or 5th years. So I think in the long run, that game's gonna be much like, obviously it's a loss in the win-loss column, but it's going to be very helpful in the long run having that experience, and I think it showed against Michigan State. But also Arizona, I mean, Kylan Boswell looked really good. I felt like he came in last year as a reclassified guy. I think he just turned 18, like right before the season started or something.
Yeah, I don't think he's 19 yet.
Yeah, I think
I don't think he turns 19 till like after the season's over. Like I think it's
Yeah,
like late April.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard on the broadcast that he's not even going to turn 19 till after the year's over, and he's a sophomore now because of that reclassification. So, a lot of times those types of things end up going south, but I think Boswell probably took it very maturely and knew that last year he wasn't going to play a very big role, but wanted to kind of get in early, get to know the system, get in the weight room, which is a huge thing for freshmen. Uh, and now it's paying off for sure. He's been playing really good so far at the start of this year. He played really well in that Duke game. Um, I just think Arizona's like a really good team with a lot of old guys, so that like they'll be good all year, obviously, but even with bringing in transfers like with Keyshawn Johnson from San Diego State and Caleb Love, obviously from North Carolina, who did have the Tar Heel for life on his sneakers coming into Cameron
Such a
Indoor.
loser.
But I think, like I said, I think that obviously they'll be good all year long, but I think it really helps that experience really helps them at the start of this year, kind of with a lot of the big tough games that they have on their schedule, being able to kind of rely on that experience help them a lot. Whereas Duke, they are a much older team than I feel like they usually have been, but they still do have a couple young guys and are like even though they're sophomores and they played really well as freshmen, they're still sophomores. Like they're still younger guys, so they don't have the 3 or 4 years of experience like some of these guys on Arizona have. Whereas they have, while it was very good, it was just 1 year of experience. So I think Duke obviously is fine in the long run. Arizona, this is a huge win for them on the road. But I think both teams can kind of come out of this with positives. And then obviously like, we can get to it now. But Duke pretty much turned it around very well against Michigan State. The start of that game was kind of ugly to watch.
It
I
was
think
terrible.
it was like that's how Michigan State's been playing all year until Friday, which we'll get to later. But uh, that start of the game was ugly, like very ugly. But Caleb Foster kind of joked about him with the almost 13 trillion. He came out and played great for Duke off the bench. He had 18 off the bench, 4 or 5 from three. So I think that's something to really look forward to. And obviously, Filipowski played well as well.
Yeah, Caleb Foster was giving me 2015 Tyus Jones freshman year vibes with hitting big shots at big times because he hit those two threes. It had to be sub 4 minutes of the game, sub 3 minutes of the game. He had that big dagger one that was super big for us, and it was just awesome to see him just come alive because and there was that not necessarily beef, but he definitely had a chip on his shoulder how he got snubbed from the McDonald's All American team, and Jeremy Fears from Michigan State was the guy who got picked over him. So that was kind of some bulletin board material for him. So it was good to see him do that and come alive, add more scoring for the team. But kind of similar to our first half against Arizona, it was very stagnant again. Not as bad as Arizona, but especially that first 7, 8 minutes of the game. I mean, Michigan State couldn't score. Duke couldn't get anything going. We had a bunch of turnovers. There was four guys standing again. Dribble, penetrate, and then kick it out, and then the next guy dribble, penetrate, kick it out. There was not a lot going on. The rebounding is still kind of an issue for us, but I'm not gonna bring too many negatives into this conversation because we did beat a good Michigan State team, regardless of how they are playing. They're still definitely a very good team. We were able to contain Tyson Walker in that first half, but then I think he probably like 16 points in the second half or something like that. So he kind of led us up in the second half. Michigan State made it a little interesting, but it was just good to see that resiliency when a good team pushes back against you that you could keep pulling forward.
Yeah, I think it's especially coming off a loss like that against Arizona. That's definitely like mentally draining and a tough one. Like it's some of those guys for like first loss in college with like McCain and Foster. Especially for Foster, McCain did not play that well really, but Foster for him to bounce back like that after a tough game was really encouraging to see for Duke because you're going to need him as the year goes on. So see him kind of bounce back after a really tough performance in his first big game to come right back 4 days later or whatever him play like he did was really, really cool to see for Duke and for him. For Michigan State, the offensive struggles continue. It kind of outside of Tyson Walker, they didn't really have much uh, in this game particularly. Malik Hall played pretty well too, but
He was in foul trouble a lot in that game too.
yeah, yeah, he was kind of hindered by that a little
A
bit.
couple of the fouls were pretty ticky tacky. Like you can go either way with them, but at the end of the day, you still kind of got to watch where you're at. But he did play very well.
Yeah, yeah, but Michigan State is always going to rebound well, so that's something that if you're Duke, I wouldn't be too concerned about. They got 13 offensive rebounds. Michigan State did, but you also kind of got to realize that hey, Michigan State's not shooting the ball that well either, so they're getting a lot more chances for offensive rebounds, and that's like their specialty since Izzo's been there is getting offensive rebounds. So that's something that like wouldn't worry too much about it. Uh, I was encouraged to kind of see like Duke, who obviously going up against Tennessee last year in the tournament, kind of got punked a little bit, out physical stuff like that. So to go up against a team that's known for being as physical as Michigan State always is, and come out on top was big for them, I think. But yeah, Michigan State got to work through some kinks. I keep saying it, but we'll get to it. That they did most of that on Friday against the Dogs. I think this was a good game for Duke, especially like you mentioned that Caleb Foster hitting those threes late. Michigan State kind of tried to hang around with it a little bit in the second half. Kind of chipped away after being down. I think it was 11 at halftime. Kind of chipped away at that lead, but then Duke was able to kind of pull away and keep it at a multiple possession game and not let Duke or Michigan State get too close. But overall, I think this was a really good performance for Duke. And I think it's definitely something to be excited for looking forward.
Yeah, if we would have dropped to 1-2 to start the season, now granted, if we did lose both those games, they're not bad losses, but it still would have raised a lot of questions, and I think it would have put a big test on Shire to keep the locker room intact and all that kind of stuff. I did like, especially in the Arizona game too, Sean Stewart coming off the bench. Uh, I think he's top 25, top 50 freshman coming in. He's overshadowed, obviously, by all the returning players and Caleb Foster and Jared McCain. But then the minimal minutes that he had in both the Michigan State game and the Arizona game, he was all over the court, rebounds. I think he took a charge one time, scoring, all that kind of stuff. So I like seeing more minutes from him. Um, I guess we'll probably might get to it, but the Bucknell game where he was in, got a lot more minutes. Obviously, we're playing a weaker team. Um, I think he fits very well in this team. To instead of bringing Ryan Young off the bench, if the other team has a more athletic versatile center, four man, whatever, I think he can play very good minutes because he's a freak athlete, to put it in words. But I would like to see more Sean Stewart minutes.
Yeah, yeah, I thought he's definitely an interesting piece for them
He's
off the
definitely a
bench.
project, though. He's
Yeah,
100% a project. It's that all that athleticism is there. It's just um, containing it all and using it to his strengths, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's definitely a guy that excited to see how he progresses throughout the year. Uh, like you said, he's definitely a project, and the athleticism he kind of reminds me of Cohen Carr a little bit, kind of with like how both are just insane athletes and like the basketball uh, IQ and the basketball knowledge and stuff like that will come along with that as they kind of
Absolutely.
go through the process. So I think those are two guys that uh, Carr's in a position where he's getting a little bit more minutes than Stewart is right now, but just kind of how those two teams line up right now. But I think those are two guys, and especially Stewart, are guys that are definitely going to be projects throughout the year. But as you get towards the end of the year, they're like kind of their development will be the key to these teams being successful, given both those teams another option off the bench and an option that they could be confident in. So I think like as you see them progress and develop, that's how those two teams will progress and develop. Like just like I said, just giving you that extra option. But yeah, but I think also the thing with an event like this with this Champions Classic, and we'll get to the other game in a second too. But you can't really be upset with losing, like if you're any of these teams. So for Michigan State, like obviously this one was kind of a weird matchup a little bit because both teams were 1-1, which I don't know how many times that in the Champions Classic with how early it is, uh,
That's
multiple
probably
teams
the first
have
time it's happened,
losses.
honestly,
Yeah,
that we
I
have
feel
two
like that.
one-loss teams coming in the Champions Classic.
Yeah, because and then like obviously being 1-2 for Michigan State at the time that they were, like, that's not really going to matter once March comes because I'm pretty confident that they'll get everything figured out. Uh, but it is kind of a little scary to think about one of those teams had to be 1-2, and both were top, what, four preseason
Yeah,
teams.
I didn't really think about that until right as the tip was, I think right as tip off happened. Either Jay Bills or Dan Schulman, one of the two, they said, well, one of these teams is going to be leaving 1-2. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, and it's like if they both teams could easily end up with only like 6 or 7 losses on the
Yeah.
whole year. So it's like if they're 1-2, no one's really going to remember that. But it's a lot scarier in the present than it will be in the future. But Duke comes out with the win, like you mentioned with that Bucknell win. They're now 3-1. Michigan State now 2-2. We'll get to their other game again in a second. But the other game,
They are currently live against Alcorn State. The second half is just about to start.
yeah.
So it could be 3-2.
Anything else on this game?
Um, no, not really. I'm happy. Can't complain.
Well, the other game in Chicago for the Champions Classic was Kansas and Kentucky. Kansas coming out with the 89-84 win. Kentucky had a lead in the second quarter, or the second half, excuse me, 58-44 at one point. They kind of built that up in the second half. I think they were up 10 going into the last possession of the second half, and then Hunter Dickinson hit that three to cut it to 7, make it 48-41 at the half. Uh, could have been thought it could have been a momentum shifter, but then Kentucky kind of came out hot at the start of the second half, extended that lead up to 14. Uh, and then Kansas, or they went on an 18-8 run to end the half. Reed Shepard was hitting a bunch of threes. Rob Dillingham was hitting a bunch of threes, kind of be able to extend that
I
lead.
think he hit 4 3-pointers in like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
That was a crazy run.
that end of the first half was just wild. It was just like three after three for Kentucky.
And
Uh,
real quick, while I was watching that game, because Kentucky was, they were somewhat in control. I felt like for most of that second half. I mean, or the first half. Sorry. I think they're up like 14 at one point in the second half. But I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for that Kentucky lead to drop and then Kansas to take over. It now, granted, it did happen, but happened a lot later than I expected.
yeah. Kansas eventually did go on that run that you were talking about, 16-2 run to tie it with 10 minutes left. Kind of went back and forth for a while after that. Stayed pretty close between both teams, and then Kansas in the last couple minutes ended the game on an 11-1 run to kind of pull away and win that game by 5. For Kansas, kind of breakout game in terms of scoring for DeJuan Harris. He had 23 points. He was 5 of 6 from 3. In the 2 games before, he was 0 of 2 from 3. Didn't even take a 3-point shot in the first game. I think that one was against North Carolina Central or North Carolina A&T or something like that. Uh,
A lot of those North Carolina teams.
yeah,
UNC Wilmington, UNC Greensboro.
yeah. There are a lot of them, but yeah, he kind of broke out from 3. I think I think Kolek's the best point guard in the country, but I think DeJuan Harris can be right up there, especially if he's shooting that way. Like his kind of control over the Kansas offense, he kind of always gets them settled down and everything. And he said I saw something on his Instagram story or something like that.
Oh,
Uh,
was it the
it,
I'll shoot when I want, like when I need to
yeah,
shoot?
yeah, I'll shoot when I need to shoot. So it's like you kind of see that from a veteran point guard that like he knows exactly how to run the offense. He knows exactly when he's needed as a facilitator, and like he still got 7 assists. So it's not like he wasn't passing the ball either. He still got a good amount of assists, but he knows when he needs to shoot. Uh, Hunter Dickinson also had a phenomenal night. He had 27 and 21. Kevin McCullough had a triple double. So Kansas had a really really good night offensively from a couple guys. Kentucky, their Antonio Reeves led them with 24 points. He was 7 of 25 from the field and 3 of 17 from three. So not a very efficient 24. Kentucky as a whole shot 12 of 38 from three. Took as many 3-point shots as they took twos. So that's kind of maybe a glimpse of what the Kentucky offense will be this year. A lot of chucking threes a little bit, but the freshman starters, the thing that I thought was interesting, the freshman starters, DJ Wagner and Justin Edwards, kind of struggled a little bit. Wagner with 4 points, Edwards only with one. But it was the freshman off the bench, kind of like we mentioned earlier. Reed Shepard, he had 13, 3 of 4 from three. And Rob Dillingham, like you mentioned, went crazy at the end of that first half. He had 18 points off the bench. I think Kentucky, like you said, I thought that lead was always going to kind of crumble maybe a little bit. They're relying on a lot of freshmen. You got Trey Mitchell and Antonio Reeves as kind of older guys, but other than that, almost every contributor for them is a freshman. Uh, Besides, I think one sophomore in there, whose name is escaping me right now, but they relying on a lot of freshmen. This was their first big game, kind of like we said with Duke in that Arizona game. But I would be encouraged to be Kentucky right now. Uh, just like the way that they were able to play an environment like that against a team like Kansas, who I think I'm kind of not quite sold on Kansas being the best team in the country right now, but I don't know who else would be, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's really a best team in the country right now. Maybe it's Arizona, maybe it's Tennessee. I think we'll learn a lot more after this week about stuff like that. But I think Kansas played well, obviously, but I'm really excited about Kentucky and kind of how they develop those freshmen and progress through the year.
Yeah, like you said, it's just that inexperience and youth that Kentucky has with all those four freshmen that just let the lead slip. But like you said, if you're a Kentucky fan, no means should you be super upset about this game. Um, I think you may be a little concerned with how much that this lead relied on the three ball. But I mean, if you can hit the threes, nothing wrong with that. It's kind of that live or die by the 3-point line kind of thing. But if you can live by it, it definitely works. It also only took 3 games for Hunter Dickinson in a Kansas Jayhawk uniform to piss off the college basketball world with his flopping. Um, I'm sure you saw that video where I can't remember who the Kentucky player was, but that was an all-time flop by Hunter Dickinson there, and it just sent the college basketball world up into a storm. It felt like that video was on Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, more than the actual game score was. So yeah, Hunter Dickinson back at it, pissing off the college basketball world.
Yeah, that took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take, honestly. But at the same
They
time,
overhit.
they uh they played North Carolina Central and some other no-name team who I can't remember off the top of my head right now. So didn't really have a spotlight to be able to piss people off. But once he got that spotlight,
He took advantage of it for
did,
sure.
didn't take long to take advantage of it. But yeah, Hunter Dickinson, awesome player, phenomenal player. Like he's 27 and 21. You don't see many 2020 games in college basketball, but he's a great player. But he does know how to work a crowd, and I'm sure there was a lot of Michigan State fans in there that stayed for the second game that were big Kentucky fans that night just because of Hunter. But he did. I saw an interview he had with Andy Katz after the game.
Shout out
Uh,
Andy Katz.
Shout out Andy Katz. But he said that he was pretty excited to make a lot of new friends and a lot of new impression on a lot of new people this year in the Big 12, going to a lot of new arenas.
Does he
And
have friends though? Are we sure?
that's a great question, and it's probably not many, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I can tell you it's nobody in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, but he is a phenomenal player though.
Yeah,
But
I'm not taking anything away from him. Like I said, the 2020 game in college basketball is very rare. Another thing that's very rare, and I think that this kind of gets lost in the weeds of everything, is the Kevin McCullough Jr. triple double that happened. 12 points,
yeah,
10 boards, and 10 assists. Only the third triple double in program history, which is kind of wild to think. Now I know that the triple doubles in college basketball are very rare as well, but Kansas is a top tier program, and you feel like that would be more than the third triple double of all time in Kansas basketball history.
yeah. I think this might be a reoccurring theme too for Kansas, with Kevin McCullough being a phenomenal player that might get overshadowed a little bit because obviously you got Hunter Dickinson as kind of the face of that, whether by both actually by his play and by his maybe theatrics and stuff like that. So like he's always kind of gonna kind of be the headliner for that team. Then you got a guy like a coach like Bill Self, who takes a lot of the attention there, and then a point guard like DeJuan Harris that is probably going to be up for the Cousy Award. So I think Kevin McCullough kind of slides in and like is kind of not really like I guess thought of as kind of those two other guys on Kansas, Dickinson and Harris. So I think that's going to be a recurring theme throughout the year where you kind of like you watch the game and you're like, oh my gosh, DeJuan Harris played great. Oh my gosh, Hunter Dickinson played great. And then you look at the box score after the game and you're like, shit,
Oh yeah, Kevin
did
McCullough
Kevin
Jr. played very well
McCullough
too.
did he just have like 18 and 10 or like
If I
8
were
and
him, I would
8 or
love to be in
something?
that position. Like,
Yeah,
there's not a lot of pressure on him in a way, but like he can still like. I think that he's probably the second guy in that offense, honestly.
yeah,
So I don't
because
think Harris is gonna have too many more 23-point games, like 5 or 6 from three. That's not
yeah,
a hate on DeJuan Harris. That's not really his style of play.
yeah. It's kind of like when Kansas needs it, he can provide it, but he also can't be relied to do that
He
every
doesn't
single
need to
game.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and like I said, he's phenomenal at running that offense and flowing through all that and everything. So I think, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily consider McCullough as like the third option on that offense. I think he's probably the second option behind Dickinson, probably the first perimeter option. But I think other people kind of might see it as DeJuan Harris, like not necessarily the first option because he's kind of the point guard and he's facilitating the others, but in a way he's kind of the headliner of that offense with the way that he starts it and the way that he gets it going and everything. So I think like you said, Dewan or not Dewan Harris, Kevin McCullough can have a really good year that kind of goes under the radar a little bit because of the guys like Dickinson and Harris who kind of might take some of those headlines. But pretty good game for Kansas. Obviously, getting a win like that over a good Kentucky team, but I think really excited if you're Kentucky.
A lot of potential there. A lot
Yeah,
of
a lot of
potential.
potential, and they're just going to keep getting better as the year goes on. But anything else from that game?
No.
All right, let's move on to the Gavitt games. We'll go in chronological
I was
order.
gonna say,
Kind
what do you want to start with here, Jack?
of. I went 0 and 2 in the Gavitt games this week. Um,
Oh, real quick, I think I went 8 for 8 in my predictions. I'm not gonna toot my own horn. I'm just stating facts.
I think I went 6 for 8 then because I think we had pretty much the same thing, or maybe
Yeah.
5 for 8.
Don't worry, I had it written down. I'm just stating facts.
Yeah, I made two picks with well, one pick was fully with my heart. Another pick was I got
They
leaned because of my heart.
they were yeah, they're both heart picks. I think the Illinois pick, yeah.
Like that Illinois pick, I don't feel bad about, but I
I gave it some
definitely,
thought, but
I
I was
definitely
just
kind of,
super high on Golden Eagles like I have been, so I had to go with them.
and they're really good. They're really
It made
good.
me let's just go to Illinois Marquette while I'm
Yeah,
talking about it.
yeah,
It
let's.
made me very nervous though when I saw that Tyler Kolk was a game time decision. I was like, this could be bad.
Yeah. Game time decision. A black and blue ankle, and still had what was it like 20,
24 points,
24
10 for
points?
18 from the field, 4 assists and 2 steals. Yeah, but I think, like you said, probably the best point guard in the country.
he might be like not the best play. Like he's not going to be the number one pick in the draft,
Oh no.
obviously, but he might be like the best college basketball player in the country. Maybe not to
Yeah,
that extent, but he like
because
Big
there
East Player
is
of the Year
college
last year.
basketball players, and then there's college basketball players who are playing for the NBA. There is
It,
a very two sides there, and then there's
yeah,
guys who are just playing college basketball.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
I've
Venn
met.
diagram. We can make it one day. That'd be
Yeah,
an interesting Venn diagram for sure.
we'll figure that one out. That's a song for another time. But yeah, Kolek is just like I was watching that game and I felt like every single time like it was
Weren't you
just
there?
I was not there. I was not able to go last second. Couldn't go anymore. I was hoping to go. Kind of glad I didn't anymore. But maybe if I was there, that they would have pulled out the win. But who know? We'll never know that. But like Marquette is so good at doing those empty side ball screens on the left side. They did it at least 5 or 6 times, I think. Where it'd be like Joplin in the dunker spot on the right side, uh, Stevie Mitchell and Cam Jones on the wing and in the slot, kind of interchanged on the right side, and then Oso would come up, set a middle ball screen um, for Kolek, and he would just reject it like almost every time, and there was no help because of that, and he just got whatever he wanted at the rim. He was able to play out when uh, Illinois would adjust and kind of be able to like have Coleman Hawkins come and help around the corner or kind of like sag off of Oso and try to help on that. You just pocket pass right to Oso, and it was just like he was just phenomenal in that empty side pick and roll. Their transition offense is just like I hated watching it because it was beating my team, but it is fun. Like
It
when you
was like
watch
me
it,
watching Michigan State's transition offense.
it's just phenomenal to watch. Like the spacing that their transition offense has is insane. It's just like it's perfectly run. Uh, there's a scrappy defensive team. I think they're a little bit better defensively than last year. Uh, they like anytime Illinois, I think there was like stretches of like multiple times where it's like 5 or 6 possessions in a row where we didn't get inside the 3 point line more than like maybe one maybe two dribbles of penetration. Like weren't even getting to the free throw line. And then Illinois went on a run for a little bit. Shannon played really well. Uh,
Luke
trying to
Goody
think.
had a lot too, didn't he?
Goody had 12, I think. He hit 4 threes, which it's good to see him kind of get a little better. Domas kind of was on and off a little bit throughout that. Guerrero had some good rebounds and stuff like that, but struggled to kind of hit some shots. But Marquette's a really good team, and Illinois had a chance to tie it, I think, with like 30 seconds left. I think it was Shannon was driving and then kicked out to Coleman Hawkins in the corner, wide open three, just didn't fall. That would have, yeah, I believe it would have tied it with about 25 seconds left or so, and then end up having to foul, and then they stretched to 5, and they kind of balloons from there. But Marquette's a really good team for Illinois personally. Like I'm not worried about it. I think being at home kind of gave us a couple points that we probably wouldn't have gotten on the road. Just being able to be in that home environment, but Marquette's a really good team, and Illinois is kind of still trying to figure some things out a little bit. But I think the big story is just Tyler Kolek being insane.
Yeah, this is not a bad loss for you guys at all. Like I said, Marquette's a very good team. Um, Iguodala, though, did you see him like putting his shoulder back into
Yeah,
place with
that
like
was
3 minutes left in the
disgusting.
game?
That
That
was
was awesome.
disgusting. But it was really cool. But it was he was
Um,
like walking down the court, like trying to pop it
yeah,
back in. I was like, oh my god.
I would like to ask my usual Illinois basketball question. You might know what this is, but where are we at with Coleman Hawkins right now? Because maybe I'm crazy. I don't know, but I have not really ever been. I don't see what everybody else sees in Coleman Hawkins. I just don't. Um, where are we at with Coleman Hawkins? Because I know Roach is a little bit towards my side, like he's slowly coming over.
I don't think it's a little bit. I think he's a lot on your side.
You think he's a lot now?
I think he's been a lot on your side. He hates Coleman. I can't count the amount of text message I got last year during games where he's just like, Coleman sucks. I'm like, he doesn't suck. Like, you gotta like he makes some dumb plays. Like, I'll give you that, but he doesn't
There
suck.
was one play though. I don't know what he had, like a turnover or something on the offensive end, and then he like sprinted back and had a chase down block. Which I was like, that's the most Coleman Hawkins possession of all time.
Yeah, it's like turn the ball over, but then go down and
Yeah.
save a layup from getting scored. But yeah, I mean, I'm still a fan. I think he can figure it out. Um, I'm not concerned really. He's battling some like tendonitis or something. I think he was out Friday. I just got the notification he's out again tonight against Southern. That game tips off in about 30 minutes or so. So we might get a little bit of live pod in on that. But I'm still a fan. I still think he's gonna be good. I think he's gonna be fine. But uh, I like I said, I think it was last pod that we did. But I think having guys around him, and like the thing that stuck out to me, I talked about in that Illinois Kansas game. But when he was in that dunk, when he was on the right block, and Justin Harmon cut for a layup, which, like I said back then, was like revolutionary compared to what the offense was last year and how stagnant it was.
Well,
I
time out.
think
The Big Ten commercial's on right now. Love this commercial.
that is a
Continue.
great commercial. But I think him being around some older guys, some more veteran guys, that I think that will help in the long run. I still think also, like I kind of mentioned this, but a lot of new guys. You bring back Shannon and Hawkins, are your only two starters returning, or the guys that started last year that returned. Got Ty in a different position, who's kind of trying to figure things out. I got Guerrero, who's new coming in. He's older, so that helps a little bit. Domask, same thing, older guy, but still new. Still trying to probably figure things out. He also didn't get to play on the foreign trip, so that was time that he lost there. So I'm not really concerned about Illinois or about Coleman. I think like you kind of got to live with some of the mistakes, and I hope that the mistakes kind of go down. It's not to the extent of Curbelo, where it was like I remember someone I think it was on Twitter or something. Someone said like if you rated Curbelo's plays on a scale of 1 to 10, you can just like throw out 3 through 8, and it's just like it's either a 1 or 2 or a 9 or 10. I don't think Coleman's to that extent, but I think there are still some mistakes he makes. I want to see him kind of be more confident shooting the ball, because I think he's a good shooter. That I don't know if he's just in his head or what, but like there's been times where he's been a really good shooter in games, and then there's times where he pump fakes like 80 times a game, and then takes two dribbles
There's
and
just not
either
that
does
confidence there.
yeah. So I think as he grows confidence as a shooter, that will grow confidence in the rest of his game. Uh, but like people are just sitting on that pump fake right now, and then that doesn't give you the ability to kind of be creative through that. So like if he can start to hit some shots and make people kind of and then kind of pick his spots where he can hit that pump fake, get people to jump, get to the lane and make play out of that, whether it's dishing to someone else who's cutting or someone who has to come help. And like I think he's fine, but we'll see. We'll see. Not playing tonight, so he'll probably won't even play against Western Illinois next week. Honestly, they'll probably just save him for Rutgers, but we'll see. I don't know how serious the injury is, but yeah, that was my
I was talking Coleman Hawkins.
talking Coleman Hawkins. But while we're at it, should we just move on to my other team that lost?
Yeah, I'll give you the floor. Actually, let me just get off what I have. I'll just say Michigan State's is good. They're back. I'm gonna say Michigan State's back. And now, Jack, I will let you have the floor.
I came into East Lansing on a Miller busing company or whatever it's called, charter bus. And I stayed in the Marriott at Campus Place in East Lansing, and I went to bed Thursday night, fully confident that the Butler Bulldogs were going to pull off this win.
As you
And
should.
a lot of times, like I say that, but I know I don't mean it. Just kind of with the struggles that we've had since I've been in school, and especially since I've been a manager. But
Did you see you were on TV too?
I was on TV a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of texts about that, which I was not prepared for that. So
It made my day seeing you sit behind Thad Mata.
yeah, I was like, I'm just a little background. Like we travel 4 managers, and so we have one. Like once we get to the arena, about hour 45 or so before the game, we got one manager setting up all of our film stuff, like which is what I was doing, sitting at the scores table, was like coding the film. One manager setting up like pretty much, uh, uh, pretty much everything, like the setting up the locker room, setting up just all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that like you wouldn't think you need to set up, but need set up. So we only have 2 people out there rebounding for like the first 45 minutes, uh, for like 8 guys shooting at a time and just chucking the ball up. And then you have parts of our coaches are out there like doing shooting groups and stuff like that. And so you got to get the ball to the coach ASAP, or else the yells start coming. And so like there was like 45 minutes of me just like on the Breslin Center floor, just sprinting around grabbing rebounds. So I'm like in a
Hustling.
quarter zip and slacks, and I'm just like dripping in sweat. I got hair going everywhere, and then I see that I'm on TV like 80 times just behind Thad Mata. So
It was awesome.
I was not prepared for that, but I was encouraged with the way that we defended for most of the game. We started off both halves, I thought, defending well, and then both halves, like the last, it was like kind of last like 5-6 minutes of the first half, where they kind of pulled away and took it to, I think it was 11-point lead at the half, maybe 9, something like that, uh, or no, 12-point lead at the half, um, and then they kind of went on a run at the start of the second half, and then we kind of battled back, got some stops, and then with like the last, or like the 10, like 10 on the clock through 5 on the clock left in the second half, it just kind of got away from us there. Um, Shot the ball extremely poorly, which has been a reoccurring theme for the Bulldogs. I think it was like 29%, something like that. Wasn't great. Um, but I think this is a team that is going to learn how to play in those environments. Like last year, I'll be honest, this game happens and the year's pretty much over. Like it kind of happened with when we went to the Bahamas and kind of got beat down by what was it, Tennessee and a couple other teams. The Bahamas was not a great trip last year, but I think the Dogs are going to be fine. Um, like I said, shooting was poor. I think DJ Davis was 1 for 6 from three. I think he's kind of struggled shooting so far at the start of the year. I think all it's going to take is one game for him to kind of get going. I think he's honestly, legitimately one of the best shooters in the country. I mean, I see it every day in practice. I think he just needs kind of one breakout game to hopefully it comes against Florida Atlantic on Thursday. But I mean, we like looking through the stats and stuff. Like, we didn't get out rebounded, or no, never mind. We did get out rebounded pretty bad. I remember looking up at the video board like halfway through the second half or something like that. We were like, they were only out rebounding us by like 1, I think, and I was like, oh well, we're hanging in on that in terms of that. The biggest thing for me is like I think, uh, and I can say this confidently because I know none of the guys listen to this, so I don't feel bad about like talking shit about them a little bit. But like a lot of these guys came from smaller schools that haven't really like not to say that they haven't played against good teams, because like they probably have
Played in
uh
that environment. Is that
they've
where you're going at?
yeah, like they've played against environments like Michigan State, but they haven't played in environments like Michigan State versus like a Butler or like a Power Five team or anything. Where like if you go to see Michigan State play like James Madison, like they're it's sold out and everything, but it's like
The fans
like
aren't all there.
the fans aren't all in. Like they're not like locked in or anything. They're not like screaming and yelling, and it's not
They
like
come to that game expecting to win by 45,
yeah. So like
but not at another Power Six team.
yeah. So it's like
I get what you're saying.
yeah. It's kind of confusing, but I think I made it hopefully kind of clear. But uh, I think the big thing for them is like it was nice to see us play in an environment like this and kind of get that monkey off the back a little bit. Um, I think this team is going to get better as the year goes on, but I saw like the amount of times like we would have open shots and just like fumble the ball, like while the person was catching it, and then obviously like that split second of just like fumbling
The
the ball
time for
around
the
in your
defender to
hands.
slide over is gone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's just little things like that. I think our guys were like a little bit overpsyched, like a little bit nervous going into an environment like that. So I think to get that one out of the way now, I mean, like there's no time to sulk about it because we got FAU on Thursday, and then either Penn State or Texas A&M, and then we'll talk about these tournaments in a little bit. But that bottom half of the bracket is not great in the ESPN Events Invitational. So I think we got a legitimate chance to at least go 2-1. Like if we beat FAU, which I think is possible, like obviously FAU lost to Bryant. Uh,
Shout out Bryant
Shout
Bulldogs.
out Bryant Bulldogs. But I think it's very possible for us to beat FAU, and you win that, then you play Texas A&M probably, who's like a really good team. But I mean, you just beat FAU. If you beat FAU, you probably beat Texas A&M, and it's like if we can go 2-1 in that tournament, I'll feel really good about this season. But yeah, kind of struggled. Pierre had that dunk, and then like I think the dunk cut it to 2, I believe. I think we were down 4, and Pierre dunked on Matty Sissoko and did the head tap and probably said some words and then got a technical. So that just kind of sucks too because it's like you're in a game against a team like Michigan State where you can't give up any unnecessary points and everything. So uh, give it like getting a dunk like that and kind of changing the momentum and then just giving it all right back with that technical and giving them 2 free points. And I think they scored on that possession. So it's just like that was just kind of tough. But I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox about Butler basketball, but I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for this year. Also, Tyson Walker is just really really good. So
Tyson Walker is very good.
yeah. All right. Well, we're kind of taking a long time with this, and we got a lot of games to preview or a lot of tournaments to preview. So let's kind of fly through the other games in the Gavitt games. Michigan with the 89-73 win over St. John's. Uh, Doug McDaniel at 26 for them. Namari Burnett at 21. He hit 4-7 threes. Good for Michigan to see him shoot like that. He never really shot that well with Alabama, so probably an encouraging sign. Encouraging
I
sign.
have one quick thing to say about Doug McDaniel. Uh, People are calling him Dougie McBuckets. Uh, can't do that. That
Yeah,
belongs to Doug McDermott. Uh, let's find another nickname for Doug McDaniel. Um, Dougie McBuckets is off limits.
yeah, that belongs to the Creighton legend, Doug McDermott. But
Chicago Bull legend too.
Chicago Bull legend. Yeah. Another Gavitt game from Monday night. Purdue with the 83-71 win over Xavier. Edey, another double-double, 28 and 11. He's pretty much unstoppable. Xavier struggling without Fremantle and why am I blanking on the other kid's name? Jerome Hunter, I think is his name, from transfer from IU. So tough game for them. Providence beat Wisconsin 72-59. That 13-point differential does not kind of describe the dominance that Providence had that whole game. They were just insane. Iowa kind of tried to pull a late comeback against Creighton. Ended up falling short. Creighton 192-84. Rutgers goes into Georgetown, or Rutgers beats Georgetown at home 71-60. And then Ed Cooley had his press conference moment, which I don't even know how to describe that, but interesting for sure. And then Nova with the 57-40 win over Maryland. Maryland only scoring 40 points. Tough start to the year for them after they lost down in, I can't remember where their tournament was, but they lost to Davidson and UAB. So they're down to 1-3 now, and a lot of struggles for Maryland. But any thoughts on any of those games?
Yeah. Did you see the Patino quote after their loss to Michigan?
I did not.
This is from John Fanta on X. Always cite your sources, kids. Patino said, "We did a good job putting this team together, but our front court depth is terrible." The most Rick Pitino quote of all time right there.
Yeah, that's he kind of didn't hold back on that one
Not
at all.
at all.
Yeah, I mean it's not wrong though. He's not wrong. They got a very good center in Joel Soriano. Uh, Outside of that, it's tough. They
Not a
got
lot.
we kind of talked about their team in the Big East preview. A lot of low major transfers that are kind of trying to adjust to the next level. They had obviously tough loss against Michigan, then a tough loss against Dayton down the Charleston Classic. As it stands right now, they're up 10 on Utah in the third place game of this tournament. So might be able to come out of this 2-1. But yeah, the front court depth is tough for them. They got to play a lot of small ball, especially if Joel Soriano is either not playing well or in foul trouble. So that's definitely something to worry about for them. But yeah, they kind of got handled by Michigan pretty good.
Yeah, as far as the Purdue Xavier game goes, Zach Edey shot 10 for 11 from the free throw line. That's pretty scary for college basketball. I think that the hack-a-shack game plan per se might have to be rethought a little bit if he can continue to put up the numbers that he's putting from the line. Like I said in our Purdue preview, the guards, if Purdue wants to have success, that the guards have to step it up and shoot well, just play well in general. Braden Smith has 25 assists in 3 games, so that is definitely an upgrade, and definitely why Purdue is kind of blowing teams out of the water right now. And they also shot 7 for 15 from 3-point line.
Yeah, that was the big number for me. 7 threes, it's not like a crazy number, but
Purdue doesn't
7,
shoot a lot of threes, and they don't make them.
yeah, but 7 for
So
15
that is a good Purdue stat.
pretty good percentage for them. Like you said, what we talked about from the beginning. It all kind of depends on their guards. They're going to get tested a lot this week. We'll get to that in a second with the Maui tournament. But yeah, seeing Foster and Braden Smith getting double digits was encouraging against another Power 5 team. Would have liked to see more from Trakoff and Wren. I think he's kind of a dynamic player for them too, kind of like another front court piece that can also play the wing a little bit. But yeah, Edey going 10 for 11 from the free throw line was huge. That was like he didn't really even struggle with it that bad last year. It was more so like the year before where he was really kind of bad from the free throw line, and especially his freshman year too. Uh, but yeah, he's if the better he can shoot free throws, the better he's going to be. Because then you can't, like you said, you can't just hack him, and that's just more points for him. Points without the clock going off, which sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. But having a guy like Zach Edey, where there's usually a flaw in a guy like that's game, and like obviously, I guess the flaw you could say would be 3-point shooting, but at the same time, like you don't really need that from him. And that's like not ever going to be part of his game. So like in terms of like what he's good at or like what you're asking of him, he's pretty much good at all of it. So yeah, he's just a phenomenal player. But yeah, good to see those guards play well for Purdue.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I had here from the Gavitt games, I guess last two things. Number one, Creighton's very good. We've said that time and time before, but Creighton's very good. Number two, Wisconsin's now 1-2, and they returned 9 of their top 10 scorers from last year. So Wisconsin's kind of in some trouble right now.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, uh, I feel like a lot of teams that are like not very good the year before, but they bring everyone back. They're like, I mean, like, in Wisconsin still made the NIT, so it's not like they were terrible, but it still like wasn't really that good. But you're kind of like, oh, we bring everyone back, and it's like, well, did you want to bring everyone back? Like, you brought like everyone was there last year, and you only made the NIT. So it's especially for a team like them, like Asijan was young, he didn't start and didn't.
He played limited minutes. He's dealing with some sort of injury right now.
Yeah, so it's like, other than that, a lot of your guys are older, and like you bring in AJ Store too, which is a good pickup for them. I think he played pretty well in that game, but like a lot of those guys, it's like they're older too, so it's like how much better can like Tyler Wall's a great player, Stephen Crawl's a great player, maybe not great, maybe good. Wall's a great player, but Kroll's probably just a good player. Um, I, Chucky Hepburn, pretty solid player. Like they're all to the point. Like how much better are they going to get? So it's like I don't know. I was kind of higher on Wisconsin this year. Like I kind of fell into the trap of they're bringing everyone back, but I feel like I fall into this trap every year with a team or two where it's like, yeah, they bring everyone back, but like I said, how good? Like, do you want everyone back? Like, are they really that good?
Yeah.
But Creighton, 92 points. I mean, there was a picture I saw on Twitter or X or whatever.
I'm still gonna call it Twitter.
Yeah, there was a picture on Twitter that I saw of it was like, is Creighton gonna be fun this year? Uh, just look like, or I was like, people are asking, is Creighton gonna be fun to watch this year? Just look at this picture, and the answer is obviously yes. And it's Stephen Ashworth pulling up from like probably like 10 feet behind the 3-point line with 27 seconds left on the shot clock. And in like the middle of the game, it was like 15 minutes left in the first half. So it's just like, that's just what you're going to get from Creighton. It's going to be awesome. The defense is, I mean, Iowa's a good offensive team. They always are. They're also always not a very good defensive team. But the offense for Creighton is awesome. Creaky from the transfer from Valpo played very well for them. Tuesday night he had 24, and then Tony Perkins had 16 for Iowa. But Creighton, Trey Alexander played awesome. 23, 11, and 9, just one assist short of a triple double. Kalkbrenner played pretty solid. Ashworth still kind of struggling. I think that's going to be a guy that, like, if he can start to get going a little bit, especially against better opponents, I think Creighton's going to be really scary. But like they're still obviously a very good team. They got a guy like Baylor Shireman, who's one of the best shooters in the country. And then I thought something that I was intrigued of for Creighton too was Farabello had 14 off the bench. I think that was a big piece for them. A big key for their success this year is that depth. We talked about it last year. They probably had one of the best starting fives, if not the best starting five in the country, but just really lacked a lot of depth. Farabello's development is huge for that. Having another guard off the bench uh, to come in for Ashworth and for Alexander throughout the game is going to be big for them. So if he can continue, he doesn't need to score 14 every game, but if he can continue to have like average around like 7, 8 points a game, and then have a breakout like 15, 16 every once in a while, like I think that's going to be really big for them. But Creighton's going to be awesome to watch this year. That's going to be just so fun to just see them fly up and down the floor.
Yeah, and that was kind of the big question that we were asking for Creighton was the bench points, the bench scoring, bench production, all that kind of stuff. They outscored Iowa's bench 32-8. 32-18, sorry. 32-18 on bench points. Obviously, like I said, 14 of those coming from Farabello. And they also outscored Iowa in the paint 42-14. When you have a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner, that number is definitely going to be higher, but um, still a very good stat to have. And then Baylor Shireman, 50 straight games with a three-pointer. Not surprised at all. Like you said, he's probably one of the best shooters in the country.
Yeah, yeah, very good. But any other thoughts on Gavitt games?
No?
All right, let's get some quick hits, and then we'll get to team of the week, story of the week, and then talk about some of these tournaments coming up. Uh, Today, just about an hour ago or so, maybe two now. Texas with the 1 point win over Louisville. Excuse me. Max Asmus with the buzzer beater to win it for them. Uh, he had 14 points. Caden Shedrick had a phenomenal game, career high 27 for him. He was everywhere for Texas. Kind of willed them to win against the Louisville team that played well today, but is not a good team. Kind of dug Texas out of the dumps, and obviously Asmus with that buzzer beater was huge to get that 1 point win. For Louisville, Sky Clark had 20 points. Sky Clark, obviously a former Illini. Happy to see him doing well. I root on all my former Illini as long as they don't transfer inside the Big Ten. I'll root for them wherever they are. So happy to see him. Wish they could have pulled off that win. Would have been really cool for Louisville, but uh, that probably isn't gonna. Even if they got that win, I don't know how much it would have changed their season. I still think Louisville's going to be really bad, but tough loss for them. Um, before Villanova beat Maryland 57-40 in a very, very ugly game.
Yep,
They
very
did,
boring, too.
yeah, they did lose to Penn at the Palestra on the road, 76-72. Justin Moore had 25 for them, but other than that, a lot of struggles for Villanova. Um, Tyler Perkins, the freshman for Penn, really stood out for them with 22. Um, Kyle Neptune is it's just a bad coach. I think I don't think there's any other way to describe it. He's just this is a really talented roster, and like you beat Maryland, but I think we're slowly finding out that Maryland's not really that good. So it's like I don't know, like something's got to get figured out. Figured out with why am I just with Villanova. Uh, but I don't know if Kyle Neptune's the answer for them. Some other games, UC Irvine with the upset over USC. Bronny's still not playing yet, so that's a piece that they don't quite have yet, but still shouldn't be losing to UC Irvine, especially at home, 70-60. Um, Isaiah Collier played very well in that game at 23 points for them, but other than that, didn't really have much. Boogie Ellis was also out, which hurt them a lot in that. But still, even without Boogie Ellis, probably should win that game. Um, and then what else do I have? Oh, today Miami beat Kansas State down in the Bahamas to win that championship. So some quick hits for you, from the week so far.
Yeah, some because I have been pretty adamant that I am pretty high on Texas this year. For them to take a Max Absmus game winner to beat Louisville by one kind of scares me a little bit. That's a kind of a big concern that I have for the Longhorns, but I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is something that I wouldn't be too concerned about.
A win's a
Uh,
win at the end of the day, but you should beat Louisville by at least 15 points.
yeah, every team's gonna have their random struggles and stuff like that. Uh, Louisville's not the team that I would expect them to have that struggle against, but um, I mean they played Louisville played well today, but it's still not a great showing from Texas. But I wouldn't be too concerned. Still early, obviously. Like pretty much, I feel like you kind of get a better gauge for teams like kind of halfway through January, which feels like a long ways away, but Uh, that you kind of got to see them play together, see them gel together, especially in this new era where it's it feels like brand new teams like almost every year. Uh, it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to that, but yeah, Texas able to pull off the buzzer beater win there. But yeah, should we get team of the week and story of the week?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'll go first with my team of the week, and then I'll let you double dip with your team and your story.
Fair enough.
Um, I I know they lost, but I have the Kentucky Wildcats as my team of the week. Um, just because I'm just so excited about them. I think watching that game, I think I don't know. I'm just really excited about them. I think they're going to be the team that's very fun to watch. A team that's going to be. I saw another tweet where it was like, I think it was Trilly Donovan that said it. Shout out Trilly. Uh, he said like college basketball is so fun because a team can look like an NBA team one game and then look like a JV basketball team the next game. Kind of went along with FAU beating Eastern Michigan by 40 one game and then losing to Bryant the next game. But I think you're going to see that a lot with Kentucky this year, and I think that Kentucky roller coaster is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think there's going to be games where they play amazing and the games where they struggle a lot with those young guys, but I think they're going to be a team that's a lot of fun to watch. So they're my team of the week this week, even
Yeah,
with a loss.
yeah. Any team that you have like four star-studded freshmen, it's always going to be fun to watch. And I think if they can get it figured out and get that experience under their belt, like uh, get a couple conference games in, that they're going to be a scary team.
Yeah. Off to you.
All right. My team of the week is Texas A&M. I can't remember the last time we recorded, but I'm giving it to Texas A&M because they had two great back-to-back road game wins at Ohio State and SMU. If you got a chance to watch that Texas A&M SMU game, it was very fun to watch. Um, Wade Taylor the fourth and Tyrese Radford are a very good backcourt, and they're super fun to watch. I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself here, but Buzz Williams could have a good argument for Coach of the Year this year.
Yeah, they're going to be a really good team. Obviously, like you said, with those two guards, uh, they were really good last year. I think it's going to be exciting to see them this year with some more expectations. But that's going to be a team that's going to be a lot of fun to watch throughout the year. Um, and a team that's I feel like is kind of set up well for March. Like obviously, guards win in March, and when you got two guys, one especially with the caliber of player that Wade Taylor the fourth is, but then when his backcourt mate is Tyrese Radford, who's another very good guard. That team's gonna be a lot of fun to watch, and like you said, two big road wins against teams that aren't necessarily projected to be great in terms of college basketball, but still good enough where getting two or getting both of those wins on the road, nothing to bat an eye at. So yeah, great week for Texas A&M as well, and they start out on Thursday against Penn State and could have a matchup with the Butler Bulldogs down in Orlando.
Very well could.
Uh, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
Yeah. So
give
Texas
it
A&M is my team of the week. My story of the week is comes from Bleacher Report by Dorch Sam. Once again, always cite your sources. I've gotten many bad grades for not citing my sources. This is from the Cinderella team, the Fairleigh Dickinson Knights, after their 16-1 upset over Purdue last year in the tournament. Their men's basketball team gets a new locker room, film room, and their film room last year and previous years before that was actually their community shower. So, following a wave of donations to Fairleigh Dickinson after the team's historic win over Purdue in the NCAA men's basketball tournament last season, the school has made some major upgrades to its facility. From ESPN's Myron Metcalf, the Knights' days of utilizing a community shower as their makeshift film room are over. There's some pictures to this too. It literally is a shower. Like it's just like a big shower, and they have some chairs, and then it's like a projector all set up. Um, so the community shower was converted into an actual film room, and a separate locker room was also added after the donors helped the school reach its goal of $500,000. The team plans to unveil both prior to Wednesday's game against St. Peter's, which they won by 1 point. This is a quote from their head coach, Jack Castleberry. He said, quote, "It was a tighter space, so it's not like you're in the shower room and everybody's comfortable. Everybody was kind of like on top of each other, and one of the shower heads was leaking, and a little drop of water would drop every 15 seconds." Um, Metcalf noted that the win over Purdue increased Fairleigh Dickinson's popularity. As quote, undergraduate applications have increased by 32% this year, and the school also has had a 327% increase in online apparel sales following the win over Purdue compared to the same time period last year. The school has also recently announced a TV deal with Yes Network. So Fairleigh Dickinson is in an actual film room now and not in a community shower watching film.
Yeah, it's the kind of the best part about these like Cinderella run stories that we don't even really know, or that we don't really even really hear about, or sometimes even tend to care about after they get eliminated and stuff like that, is uh like the impact and like the after effects, I guess, of what that run does and the money that it brings in for the programs that make these runs. Uh, I know firsthand here at Butler, those two national championship runs increased applications by like uh, I think it was like 40 or 50% in a book I read or something like that. Uh, like what those basketball runs do for not only a program but a university as well, and the ability to like kind of get those donations and stuff like that to get them better facilities. I know that uh, our facilities that we have at Butler are almost all based off of because of those two runs. Obviously, we're in the Big East because of those two runs. Uh, to see it, like to see what the impact besides like those like and for FDU it was technically two games because of the first four, uh, but like just what those two wins, but like obviously that win over Purdue does for them as a program, not just as a team. Like it's always a cool story to see those Cinderella runs, but then what that does for their program, to be able to bring attention and bring exposure. Like I said, the apparel sales helps them out, the donations helps them out. So always really cool to see like kind of the after effects of what those tournament runs do for these programs and those universities. So very cool
Yeah,
story.
and I'm sure like the online apparel sales for FDU prior to their NCAA tournament victory wasn't too high, but a 327% increase in those sales is wild.
Yeah, yeah. To
And you see it too with like um, Tobin Anderson. You know, he gets a bigger job. Shaheen Holloway gets a bigger job from St. Peter's. It does more, like you said, outside of the basketball program and like the athletic facilities and as like the university and like the community of the university as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much that goes into those deep runs that we don't typically see. So really cool
Or
for
tend
them
to
to,
care about.
yeah, or tend to care about. But really cool to see them kind of ESPN and Bleacher Report kind of highlight those uh, like what comes out of those runs for them as a program as a whole instead of just that team. So cool story there. My story not as cool as I think it is funny. In the Providence Kansas State game, I believe it was Friday night. Uh, Providence freshman um, Garway Dual, uh, in the middle of overtime in their tight game against Kansas State, which they ended up losing, decided to just punch freshman guard Kansas State freshman guard Day Ames right in the face and
Right in the face.
resulted in a brawl. That was just a wild sequence. Uh, that it was just hilarious. But that was my story of the week, just out of pure comedy. And also, I might add a second story of the week. This is live right now. Jackson State just hit, I think, a buzzer beater to beat Missouri. 73-72. So Missouri
Coach
now
Prime,
falls to 3 and
shout
2.
out.
Yeah, they were like showing videos of like the cameras like went onto the floor, and this kid for Jackson State just is holding up the Shador thing. So but yeah, I'm just watching this right now, and it was a turnaround jumper that rolled in with 5 seconds left, and then
Shout out
Missouri
Jackson State.
Missouri came down and missed. Didn't even get a shot off actually. But yeah, shout out Jackson State. Little live podcasting there.
Um, so back to the whole Providence brawl.
Yeah.
I think it was a tweet from Jeff Goodman, I want to say. Um, the Providence guard, he tweeted out like per Big East rules or something like that. He'll be receiving a 1-game suspension. That is just hilarious. A 1-game suspension for that absolute sucker punch is just
Yeah.
funny. I guarantee you that Kim English will have his minutes down to near 0 pretty soon.
Yeah. It might not be a technical or might not technically be a suspension, but I'm sure that he will not be seeing the floor for a while. Um, that it was just hilarious to see. I feel like we get a couple of those, not necessarily like brawls and stuff like that, but just like hilarious moments in college basketball where like a kid just out of nowhere, not really out of nowhere, like there's a little bit of yapping at each other and pushing and shoving a little bit, and then the Providence kid just sucker punched him right in the face. So I thought that was hilarious, and that is my story of the week. Should we get into uh, these Thanksgiving tournaments coming up?
Yeah, let's go. What do you want to
All
go
right.
first? Do you want to go Maui?
We got to start with Maui. Not only is Maui my favorite tournament every year, I think it's always like it
It is
sucks
the
this.
Thanksgiving tournament.
Yeah, when with all these Thanksgiving tournaments that are played in like either ballrooms or huge NBA arenas with no one in them, Maui, and it really sucks this year that it's not in Lahaina. Uh, Obviously because of all the devastation and the wildfires there, which really sucks.
I did see they're putting a bunch of the proceeds, like the revenue that they get from that tournament. A lot of those proceeds are going to Maui Relief. Is that correct?
I'd have to imagine. I
I
don't
think
know
I
for
saw something
certain,
like
but
that. So
I'd have to
just
imagine
adds
that.
added success to that tournament that make me watch even more.
Yeah, and like obviously there was several preseason open exhibitions, uh, those charity exhibitions that sent a lot of money over there to the people of Maui. So very cool to see there. But in terms of the basketball, uh, not only is this always one of the top tournaments of the year, um, the tournament this year is just absolutely absurd. You have Tennessee, who's currently number 7 in the country, but is definitely going to climb up in the rankings tomorrow once that AP poll comes out. Syracuse, who's kind of in a transition period right now, but then you got number 2 Purdue, number I believe 11 Gonzaga, number 1 Kansas. They're playing against Chaminade, who it's always cool to see that Chaminade gets to play in the tournament every other year. Excuse me. Being a university down in Hawaii, but and then UCLA, who's kind of a team also in like a little bit of a transition period, but still a pretty talented team. And then Marquette, who is now number 4 in the country, I believe. Uh, so a loaded field. I think obviously the best game day one has to be Purdue Gonzaga, 2 versus 11. That like I said, obviously the devastation in Maui is terrible, but that game in the Lahaina Civic Center would have been crazy. This year it's in Honolulu, so it's still going to be a wild game and a wild atmosphere probably. But that game is probably what I'm most looking forward to. But um, especially the second day, where if it lines up, we're going to get Tennessee Purdue or Tennessee Gonzaga probably, and then probably Kansas Marquette as the 2 semifinals. So just a bunch of crazy good games coming up this week in Maui.
Yeah, that was kind of the main thing that when I saw this bracket that I was focusing on is that we have the potential to get back-to-back games of uh, Tennessee, Purdue, and then Kansas, Marquette. That would be a very fun night of college basketball.
That's gonna be maybe the top 5 teams, 4 of the top 5 teams, maybe 4 of the top 6. Uh,
At least
yeah,
the worst 4 top 10 teams.
yeah, because I mean, depending on what happens with Houston tonight, Tennessee could jump them. I mean, Tennessee's probably gonna uh, jump regardless, just because of how good they've looked this year. But yeah, you got 3 of the top 4 teams, 4 of the top 7 teams, right as it currently stands right now, and 5 of the top 11 teams playing in this tournament. So there's going to be good games all week. You could get uh, a top 2 matchup with Kansas and Purdue if that plays out. Uh, like the championship is almost guaranteed to be a top like 6 or 7 matchup. Uh, right after they just played another top 7 team or top 11 team or something like that. So it's like there's going to be so many good games coming out of this tournament. I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be just phenomenal basketball. This it's going to be something where it's like you can't make your year-long predictions based on this tournament, because I think you also got to take into the fact that's like if these teams played with like adequate rest and adequate prep against each other, who knows who wins? Especially once you get into these second and third games. But regardless, like everyone's dealing with the same circumstances, so uh, like you can't really like make judgments on that. But this tournament's just going to be awesome.
I do have a quick stat for you though. So Syracuse does play Tennessee in that first game. Um, Syracuse is the only undefeated team in the Maui Jim Invitational. They are 10-0.
Like of all time.
Yeah, all time. I think Duke was like the next. Like it was all based off win percentages. So like if you're one, I don't think actually anybody else is undefeated. Um, it's all off win percentage. I think Duke was like 18-1, and they were like .999 whatever. But Syracuse is 10-0 in the Maui Invitational tournament. So could we see an upset against Tennessee? I don't think so. It's not going to
No,
happen. But
no.
it's just a weird stat that makes you think.
Yeah. The worst part for Syracuse too is that they're probably gonna lose to Tennessee, and then you're thinking like, all right, maybe we can come out of this tournament 2-1. It's like, no, you play the loser of Purdue Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. It's gonna be a tough tournament for them. They'll probably get a nice gimme win at the end with Chaminade, but who knows? Also, like Chaminade beat Virginia and Ralph Sampson back in the '80s or whatever. So you just never know. Uh, but yeah, Syracuse, the undefeated streak's probably going to come to an end. But
Who do you got to win this one?
for this one, I'm very high on Tennessee. I've said that from the beginning. I love Tennessee. I'm a huge Tennessee fan of this year's team, at least. I love Dalton Connect. I love Zakai Ziegler. I love Rick Barnes. I have them losing in the championship game to Kansas. I think Kansas. I think if Kansas and Tennessee play like hypothetically in like the Elite Eight or Final Four, I think Tennessee can definitely beat them. And not to say that they can't beat Kansas now. Like I think they could easily beat Kansas, but uh, I think just with the experience that Kansas has, while it might not be all together with Hunter Dickinson added, I think the experience that Kansas has with, like we mentioned, DeJuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, Kevin McCullough, KJ Adams, all those guys, and then the talented freshmen they have as well. I think Kansas this early in the year is going to be good enough to win that tournament, but I think it's going to be definitely a tight one. I do think Tennessee's going to make it to the championship game. I think they get a little bit added benefit of playing Syracuse first round, while Purdue and Gonzaga are going to be going at it tomorrow. and then have to turn around and play Tennessee the next day. So I think that gives them a little bit of benefit. Obviously, they can't overlook Syracuse and kind of make that game tougher than it needs to be. But assuming they take care of business against Syracuse, I think having that uh, game of lesser difficulty will be helpful for them to beat whoever wins the Purdue Gonzaga game, which I think will probably be Purdue. I think Gonzaga will be good at the end of the year, but I think they'll kind of struggle towards the beginning, uh, especially with a tournament like this, playing all these good teams. But I do have Kansas pulling it out.
Yeah, I gave Kansas a thought, obviously. I'm going with Tennessee on this one. I think Tennessee beats Marquette in the championship game for that one. Um, like you said, I love Dalton Connect. I don't love Zakai Ziegler or Rick Barnes, but I love Dalton Connect. I mean, dude's averaging 19.7 points per game. I mean, not granted, it is like 3-4 games into the season, but still, I think that the rotating bigs that um, Tennessee has, um, I think they're going to end up playing Purdue. I think that the rotating bigs that Tennessee has is going to be able is to contain Zach Edey away and allow all that scoring to open up and kind of limit Purdue's scoring ability. But I'm high on Tennessee, so
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Tennessee on this one.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think there's 5 teams you can pick and feel really confident about.
But I do think Marquette beats Kansas, though.
Yeah, I think UCLA is right there too. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they pull it all together and make a run and make it to the championship game and maybe even win it. Uh, that's just how exciting this tournament's going to be with all these good teams. Uh, and so I think like you can confidently say that any of these teams could win, and but also any of these teams could lose, obviously, because they're going up against really talented other teams, and that Kansas Marquette game likely is going to be an awesome game on that second day.
Drop
But
the microphone.
all good. But yeah, just no matter what the games are, they're definitely going to be good, especially on that Tuesday night, I think. But tomorrow's going to be crazy too, with Purdue Gonzaga especially. But UCLA and Marquette's going to be another wild game too. But I think those other two uh, probably not going to be as close. But we'll see. You got to play the games. So, but yeah, should we move on to Atlantis?
Let's go to the battle for Atlantis.
So, Battle for Atlantis taking place down in the Bahamas. This will be Wednesday. I think it starts Wednesday. Yeah. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. With the championship on Friday. First game, North Carolina, UNI. Then Villanova, Texas Tech. Michigan, Memphis, and Arkansas, Stanford. Not quite the loaded field like Maui is, but still a pretty solid field. You got some teams figuring stuff out a little bit, like Villanova, uh, and Arkansas, kind of, and Michigan as well. All teams that are kind of have had their struggles so far, or not really Arkansas yet, but Villanova and Michigan have kind of had their struggles. Arkansas with how many transfers they brought in, kind of trying to figure some stuff out. North Carolina hasn't really played anyone yet. Hasn't played a big game yet. Well, some of these teams have. Arkansas hasn't really played a big game yet either, but Michigan and Villanova both already playing some Power 5 teams, but also losing to some low major teams. And then Texas Tech, kind of a sneaky one in this tournament, I think. Could make a good showing, but for this one, I do have North Carolina beating Arkansas in the championship. I think this is the tournament where North Carolina is going to get a bump in the rankings. Obviously, I think by winning this, I have them beating Arkansas just because I think Arkansas still has things to work out. I think they're very good, but I think obviously, like I said, with all those transfers, it's going to take a little bit of time to figure some stuff out. So I think Carolina, with returning guys like R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot, two great players like that, as well as the rest of their supporting staff there, supporting cast. I mean, I think Carolina's going to be good enough to win this tournament. Well, do I think Arkansas is going to be better than Carolina, or do I think Carolina is going to be better than Arkansas at the end of the year? No, but I think for the in terms of this tournament, I think having that continuity and guys that have played together is very, very important in an event like this where you play 3 games in a row. So I got Carolina eking out a win over Arkansas in the championship.
Yeah, I got Arkansas on this one. I trust in the Must Bus. They are coming off a bad loss to UNC Greensboro, but I think that just adds more fuel to the fire here. I almost kind of like that they lost right before this
Oh yeah,
tournament. I think
I
that
completely
helps out.
blanked that they lost. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, Arkansas lost to UNC Greensboro. I also like Khalif Battle coming off the bench, the transfer that they got in from
Temple.
Temple. You're right. He's averaging 16 points a game in 24.8 minutes off the bench. And then I also like the Louisville transfer, L. Ellis. He's averaging 14.3 points per game and shooting 52.6% from the field. So I think Arkansas gets it done. Um, I I think it will be a North Carolina Arkansas championship game. I just got Arkansas on this one.
Yeah, I think I think that's going to be the championship game. Like we both had it. Uh, uh, for me, picking North Carolina was like I said, the experience and the continuity that they have. But Arkansas winning this would not surprise me at all either. So I think those are definitely the 2 top teams in this tournament. But then, like you said, you got a sneaky team like Texas Tech. You got teams like Nova and Michigan who coming
And you
off
got a
tough,
Valley team in there too.
and you got a Valley team. You got a Valley team. Speaking of that, I know we're mid this, but we talked about having a Valley minute. Do you want to do that now, or should we save it for after these? After we wrap up with ESPN events?
Let's do the Valley minute real quick.
Why not? Go ahead.
Um,
Go ahead. I'll let
so
you
this
take
is
the
gonna be
floor.
something new that we're I guess trying to do. Um, we are Valley guys through and through. If you don't like the Valley, you probably shouldn't listen to this part. Don't worry, it's only a minute though. Um, so obviously when we talk about the Valley, it's gonna be a lot of Bradley Braves talk, um, but they did have OT win versus Utah State at home. Their second straight OT game. I think they started the season 2-0 with OT win at UAB and then an OT win at home versus Utah State, and then they blew out Tarleton State at Carver Arena. Um, my biggest thing is shout out Brian Wordle for still wearing a suit on the sidelines. I love it, and especially when he brings out those red shoes, those bright red shoes with all black suit, white shirt, and red tie. Love it.
Got to have class on the sidelines, and the Bradley
Absolutely.
Braves have
Coaches
that.
need to start bringing back wearing suits again.
Yeah, and they have a 3-0 record to start the year, but they got believe it's tomorrow, a, a tough one with Tulane, who's a pretty good team. Bradley haven't. They don't play. I don't think they play any Power Fives. But they might in that tournament they're in. I can't remember if there's a Power Five team in that. If
I can find out for you right now.
But anyway, even if they do have one, it'll only be one. So not like a crazy tough schedule on the eye test, but they play a lot of good teams. Utah State's going to be a good team. I think Tulane's going to be a good team. I think UAB is going to be a good team. Obviously, they beat Maryland already. The Valley's sneaky good this year. Drake's going to be good. I think UNI can be pretty good.
UNI is sneaky good.
I think Indiana State can be sneaky good too. Um,
Evansville kind of sneaky good, even though they've been horrible for the last 6 years.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
it's an improvement from where they've been at.
yeah. I'm trying to think if I'm blanking on anyone else, but yeah, I mean, like Bradley have Sneaky has a pretty good schedule, so we'll kind of see how that progresses throughout the year. But uh, this game against Tulane could be a big resume win for them in terms of probably not at large bid. I still think the Valley, as much as we love the Valley, I think it's a 1 bid league, but it could be big in terms of seeding and getting kind of like maybe like a 14 or 13 seed instead of a 15 or 16 where you're kind of stuck playing against one of the best teams in the country. Like even a 14 or 13 seed probably going to lose, but got a little bit better shot. So we'll see. a win like this could really help them in terms of that seed line resume, which I believe we were talking about this last week as well.
This is after the UAB one.
Yeah, talking about some seed lines for Valley teams
And it's
in November. So that's just kind of what you get here. But
yeah, that's the Valley Minute.
There you go. All right, let's hop back into the ESPN. The last tournament we'll talk about, the ESPN Events Invitational. Or I guess we'll touch briefly on the Fort Myers one as well. But Penn State, Texas A&M, Florida Atlantic, Butler, go Dogs. Iowa State, VCU, and Boise State, Virginia Tech. I feel like this is kind of a heavy loaded bracket on the top half with Penn State, Texas A&M, Florida Atlantic, and Butler. And then Iowa State, kind of don't know about them yet. VCU, kind of don't know about them yet with the new coach. Boise State had a tough loss recently against someone I can't remember. Virginia Tech, kind of don't know about them.
I wouldn't sleep too much on Virginia Tech, though.
Yeah.
Especially on that portion of the bracket.
Yeah. I mean, they got their first games against Boise State, so I think that could be a pretty, not easy, but should be a win for them. But yeah, for this one, I wanted to go with my heart. Wanted to take the Dogs.
I was wondering if you're gonna do this.
I just couldn't do it. I got A&M. I got A&M beating VCU actually. That bottom half of the bracket, it'd probably be Virginia Tech, but I don't know. For some reason, I just kind of thought maybe VCU could win. I don't really even know what to expect out of that bottom bracket, but I think Texas A&M with their guards in a tournament, an event like this, like we talked about, kind of with all these tournaments, having these 3 games in a row, having good guards, I think is really important for that. Kind of set the tone and like get everything in order a little bit. So I think having those 2 guards with Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford is really important for them, and I think that's why Texas A&M is going to win this tournament.
Yeah, I got A&M too. Doesn't even matter who they play in the championship game. I was more focused on the top half of this bracket. But yeah, like you said, Wade Taylor averaging 17 points a game. He's also averaging 3.2 steals per game, which is a wild stat to have. Normally you don't, if you see a guy that's averaging 1.5 plus, even two steals per game, that's a crazy number, but 3.2 steals per game is a very high number. And then you have Radford averaging 15.5 points per game, 5.3 boards, and 2.8 assists. I think these guards are just going to carry this tournament and take them to the championship game and win.
Yeah, completely agree. We'll wrap up real quick with the Fort Myers one. Wisconsin is playing. Why am I blanking on this right now? Wisconsin's playing UVA, and SMU is playing. Blanking on that one too. I knew all the other ones off the top of my head, but
I literally just looked at this too.
Basically, I have Wisconsin beating SMU. Is why I know that Wisconsin and SMU are in it. But I think UVA. I just don't think they're quite there yet. I think Wisconsin's really not that good, but I think this field isn't that crazy tough. I think SMU's good. I think they could definitely win this tournament. Chuck Harris is on that team, transfer from Butler. He played well against Texas A&M. They got a couple good guards down there for SMU, but I got Wisconsin kind of figuring things out and winning 2 games down in Fort Myers.
I probably should pick Wisconsin, and I like your reasoning. I think they do figure it out. But I got SMU winning this one. I think that because they will have to play Virginia. Maybe they do play Virginia right away. Do we ever figure this out?
It's Wisconsin, Virginia for sure.
Okay, so SMU don't matter who they're playing. But I think SMU does play Virginia, and I think that SMU can out Virginia, if that makes sense.
Yeah. SMU's got West Virginia.
Okay.
Without Kurt Carissa.
Yeah, I didn't even give that a thought. Like I said, I think SMU can out Virginia, and that game will be horrible to watch. You're a sicko if you watch that game. I'm gonna watch that game.
It's going to
But
be
you're a
like in the
sicko if you
50s.
watch that game.
Yeah, that's going to be an ugly battle. But you got to take the 92-84 Creighton beating Iowa's with the 53-51 Wisconsin beating Virginia's. So it's all encompassed in this beautiful game that we love so much, and beautiful, uh, I guess, uh, institution of college basketball.
Institution. Love that.
Yeah, I was struggling to find the word there, but yeah, that's our predictions for some of these tournaments. There's obviously a ton of them. A lot of these 4-team tournaments too. Um, I kind of hate these tournaments. Like they're so fun to watch a little bit, but at the same time, it's like there's always like 1,000 people in these like huge arenas and stuff like that. That's why I think Maui's the best, and that's why it sucks so much that it's not in Lahaina this year. But tournaments are kind of tough to like predict because of like how many factors and variables go into it with all the
How
different.
quick the games are,
Yeah,
rest times, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like I saw which this can go into we can segue into shout outs because my shout out is Feast Week. But I
Love
saw like
Feast Week.
ESPN over the next like week or so has like 75 games on college basketball games throughout the next week, um, with these tournaments going all day. Um, I think one of my favorite things to do is obviously there's a special holiday the day before Thanksgiving for all the young kids out there. And one of the best things about that holiday is watching Maui while you're at the pregame before the special holiday of going out to the towny bar and getting back into seeing all the old high school friends and having some Maui on in the background watching it. So that's always fun. But so many games this week to watch. So that's my shout out. Shout out Feast Week and shout out Black Wednesday.
I love seeing the Feast Week graphic on my television. It's awesome. Good shout out. I got two shout outs. Number one, this shout out is because it's Maui time, Feast Week. One of my shout outs is Georgie Bashanoshvili because every time Maui comes up, I just see the video of him dancing in the Palm Tree, Illinois shirt at the luau. I, for some reason, that video just sticks with me. So whenever Maui comes around, I see that video.
That was an all time video. One of the uh, if you can take anything out of the Georgie Pashonishvili era at Illinois,
That's probably it.
that's probably the best
That's the
part of it.
moment.
He was a great player for us, great guy, uh, awesome character. But I'm just so happy that he got the opportunity to go to Maui because he's the perfect person to go to Maui. But yeah, shout out Georgie Pashonishvili. I was not expecting that
No, you
in the
weren't.
shout outs, but
Um,
that was a good one.
my second shout out, most important shout out, this is my shout out is Dickie V. Dickie V is cancer free. Um, couple claps, Dickie V. We love you, absolutely love you, Dickie V. Um, I don't. He's gonna try to work his way to get back courtside and on the mic for some games. I think Jay Billis was saying he has some vocal cord issues, all that kind of stuff. But regardless, if we do see him courtside on the mic, Dickie V is cancer free. So love Dickie V, absolute icon in the college basketball world. So very good news coming out of there.
Yeah, awesome to hear that cancer free. I think this is like his second time I think beating cancer, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, so that's awesome for him. Like you said, an icon in college basketball. Uh, One of the great characters of the game, and just the things he does. Uh, Kind of like he's like the Lee Corso of college basketball. It's kind of funny, like the relationship that like him and Billis have. I feel like is very similar, like the relationship that Corso and Herb Street have,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like the young guy who is always hanging out with the older guy who's kind of a little bit of a whack job in a way, but in an awesome way, in a lovable way. So awesome to see Dickie V beat cancer again, and hopefully, like you said, I know he is taking a little bit longer for while he beat the cancer. He's still taking a little bit longer to recover before he can get back on the air. But hoping that comes sooner rather than later. Obviously, I hope he takes his time with it, but hoping that can come soon because it's awesome seeing Dickie V on the
There's
call for a
nothing like
game.
watching a college basketball game with Dickie V on the call.
Yeah, Duke, North Carolina, growing up with him and Billis always on the call
Awesome.
was it just like that. There's just so many memories of that growing up with Dickie V calling those big games all the time. So hopefully he's back on the air soon, and excited and very happy for him that he was able to beat cancer, which is awesome to see for him. But yeah, if that's all you got, I think we're ready to call it on this one. A lot of games that we were able to talk about this week coming up. Going to learn a lot about some teams this week in these tournaments, these Thanksgiving tournaments. So feast week is upon us. It's happy to see that it's here. And in terms of what we got coming up next, we're both going back to the hometown, Morton, Illinois. So we're trying to work out some details, maybe get a live pod in somewhere. So we're gonna try and figure that out. Hopefully the schedules align. But yeah, gonna be fun to be able to watch a ton of basketball. Try to be able to recap as much of it as we possibly can. Uh, next time that we're recording, but it's gonna be exciting. The next couple days gonna be really exciting. So I think that's all we got. But I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you soon.